Dan and Amy. So, oh boy, the international intrigue over the competing allegations of espionage. So, let's start with Judge Napolitano.
Yes.
On Fox News, Judge Andrew Napolitano said this about Obama outsourcing Trump surveillance to GCHQ, Government Communications Headquarters, which is the British spy agency. Yes, boy.
The British spy.
The spot of tea.
3 intelligence sources have informed Fox News that President Obama went outside the chain of command. He didn't use the NSA, he didn't use the CIA, he didn't use the FBI, and he didn't use the Department of Justice. He used GCHQ. What the heck is GCHQ? That's the initials for the British spying agency. They have 24/7 access to the NSA database. So by simply having 2 people go to them saying, President Obama needs transcripts of conversations involving candidate Trump, conversations involving President-elect Trump, he's able to get it. And there's no American fingerprints on this.
Now, GCHQ's George Smiley. I'm just kidding.
No, it's a home shopping network, right?
That's a Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy reference. But GCHQ responded and said that is positive rubbish.
This is rubbish. It's not there. It says the president-elect is nonsense and utterly ridiculous and should be ignored. Well, that's what they said.
It's not bad. It's not bad. You've been watching The Crown, haven't you?
I don't know.
And so now, just this morning, Spicer and the White House apologizing to Downing Street because Sean Spicer repeated what Andrew Napolitano had suggested on Fox News, and they're apologizing now. So that you got the GCHQ quandary now.
RBG.
That's right. And then
and you know me.
You had the chairman and vice chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Republican Richard Burr, Democrat Mark Warner, issue a statement saying they have no evidence of Obama surveillance of Trump Tower during or after the 2016 election. And this became a subject of much consternation at Sean Spicer's press briefing yesterday, where Sean Spicer imitated Melissa McCarthy imitating Sean Spicer with Jim Acosta.
Sean, what you are refusing to answer, the question that you're refusing to answer is whether or not the president still believes
I'm not
what he
refusing. I just said it
believes.
to Jonathan. I didn't refuse to answer that.
You have a Senate and House Intelligence Committee, both leaders from both parties on both of those panels saying that they don't see any evidence of any wiretapping. So how can the president go on and continue to say
Because that's not
these
because
things?
you're mischaracterizing what Chairman Nunez said. He said, quote, I think it's possible he is following up on this. So to suggest that is actually, and you're stating unequivocally that you somehow...
Literally, he said if you take the
right, and I think that we've already
he
cleared
is
that up.
wrong.
And he said exactly that. But the president has already said clearly when he referred to wiretapping, he was referring to surveillance.
But it sounds like, Sean, that you and the president are saying now, well, we don't mean wiretapping anymore because that's not true anymore. So now we're going to
that's not
other forms of surveillance. What's it going to be next?
Jim, I think that's cute, but at the end of the day, we've talked about this for 3 or 4 days. What the president had the quote wiretapping in quotes. He was referring to broad surveillance, and now you're basically going back. We talked about this several days ago. The bottom line is that the investigation by the House and the Senate has not been provided all of the information. And when it does, but where was the concern? Hold on, I just
reports, not evidence.
No. What I think the president addressed that last night and said there's more to come. These are merely pointing out that I think there's widespread reporting that throughout the 2016 election there was surveillance that was done on a variety of people.
And then this kicker.
Well, so you're coming to some serious conclusions for a guy that has zero intelligence. Class.
Give me some credit.
I'll give you some.
A little intelligence, maybe. But no,
clearance.
What I'm saying is that
I wasn't done. Clearance.
Those two panels.
Maybe both.
Yeah, boy. I could listen to those two kids kicking around all day long. But it turns out that a lot of Republicans on the Hill are starting to distance themselves from what is perceived to be the blast zone around Trump and Spicer on this topic. And for more, we're pleased to be joined by our friend Matt Mackowiak, who is a Republican strategist and president of the Potomac Strategy Group. Matt, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. How are you?
Good. And so what is your sense of what the administration is doing to advance this story and how a lot of Republicans on the Hill are reacting to retreat from it.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing anything to advance it. Honestly, I think it's a story they could and should have put to bed, a week ago by making clear that he was talking about surveillance and not talking about wiretapping. Selena Zito, who worked for the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review for a long time, and I think now is with CNN and the Washington Examiner, had one of the great insights of the campaign last year, and that is that Trump supporters take him seriously, but not literally.
Right.
The national media takes him literally, but not seriously. President Trump doesn't always have the exact right words, to be used in the narrow scope of government and policy. And when he said wiretapping, he did not, I don't think, formally mean that President Obama was formally wiretapping him. But words have meaning, and obviously there was a feeding frenzy when that came out. But the real game changer was the House and Senate Intelligence Committees yesterday coming out and saying there's just no evidence of this. And that was based on, I believe, FBI Director Comey's testimony to the Hill. So, they had effectively lost the argument. They had no allies left on this issue. And honestly, they could have moved beyond this a week ago. But it's very hard to apologize for President Trump or clarify because he never wants to apologize and he never wants to clarify. So, as a staffer, you put yourself in some danger if you do that.
Well, in this instance, he should just come out and say that he was wrong. But instead, he goes on with Tucker Carlson and says, well, in a few weeks, we'll know more, and you're going to want to stay tuned to see what we find out. It's like he won't let it go. He's so stubborn. But yet when he does something like this, he loses credibility, I think.
That's right. And then you add to that the fact that they have a diplomatic row with Britain yesterday of all countries because Spicer at the podium said it appears that British intelligence may have been the ones doing the surveillance. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. If it is, I'd like to know it. Why are they doing it? Was the Obama administration in coordination with them? Those are good questions to find out. But if that's true, but either way, I mean, this thing has a cost.
But doesn't
a lot of time over the last week, and of course it impacted relations with Britain, who's our strongest and longest ally.
The Britain thing notwithstanding, doesn't Spicer have a point though with respect to responding to the Senate Intel Committee's joint statement and what Devin Nunes said too, as well, on the House side, that the investigations are ongoing. We don't know. I don't have the intelligence clearance, and neither does Jim Acosta, so we don't know exactly. And there's a lot of basis to believe that some surveillance did occur, that Trump advisors or allies may have been swept up in that surveillance. And there are legitimate questions about how the intelligence community did or did not retract or redact, I should say, the names of Americans, starting with General Flynn, from their intercepts. So there is like legitimate questions, and we don't have all of the answers yet. So doesn't Spicer and to some extent Trump have a point when they make that case?
Yeah, and I've said that actually. I mean, I've said from the beginning when Trump first tweeted it, tweeted that out whenever that was 10 days ago, that this is a matter that the House and Senate Intelligence Committees should investigate. I think to this point, I believe it's the FBI director that testified under oath that there is no evidence. But you're right. Those investigations with the intelligence committees are underway. They've been underway for several months. Those are the appropriate places for those investigations to happen. But add to that the fact that the FBI has been investigating Russia's activities since before the election occurred. But you're right. I would not doubt that there is more to this story than we know publicly. And that, as you said, one or two perhaps Trump associates either inside the campaign or perhaps more likely outside the campaign did get swept up. I mean, if look, a Russian diplomat speaking to anyone in the United States is likely to be surveilled. And whether you're just a business person or whether you're a Trump associate, someone somewhere is listening to that call and transcribing it. You're right. There probably should have been redactions. There probably was a little bit of politics being played there. And you're right. The investigation, will go on, but they're not just looking into that. They're obviously looking into what Russia was doing as it related to election interference, and that's obviously a big issue that Democrats want to get to the bottom of.
All right. Today, Angela Merkel will be at the White House with Donald Trump. Yeah. And so what do they have in common? What will they find common ground on during their discussion?
Oh, dear. That's a good question.
Yeah.
The visit was delayed a couple days because of weather. Obviously, trade will be a big issue in immigration. I think Trump and Angela Merkel have really different views of trade. He's been pretty critical of what Merkel's done in terms of policy in Germany and what it's meant for their own security. My guess is they will come together on NATO. Trump has, I think, seen the light on the importance of NATO, on making a commitment to NATO. He did it in his joint session address. He's done it in a couple other settings as well. His cabinet members have done it. So my guess is they will come out and talk about NATO and talk about a bilateral partnership between the two countries. But they have pretty fundamental disagreements. There's a national election coming up in Germany not too long from now, and Merkel's in a little bit of a weak position as sort of economic nationalism and economic populism is sweeping through Europe, just as it has here, at least to some degree in the last 6 months.
There's been a lot of back and forth about whether supporting the replacement plan for Obamacare that's being advanced in the House puts the Republican majorities in jeopardy or not in 2018. What about putting the Republican majorities in jeopardy in 2018 if they put up a fuss about the blueprint budget that Trump promulgated yesterday that cuts 1.35% of federal spending? What if they put up a fuss about unwillingness to make those rather modest spending reductions?
Right. Well, keep in mind, I mean, I worked on Capitol Hill for 4 years in the U.S. Senate. Every budget every president puts up is dead on arrival. And honestly, the president's budget is a suggestion. That's true no matter who the president of the United States is. It's Congress that determines what the budget is. So they're going to accept some of his recommendations. They're going to reject some of them as well. Obviously, a 1% cut is pretty modest, and we're still running deficits in the hundreds of millions of dollars. We're still at 19 or 20 trillion in our national debt. And the trajectory that we're on is still very worrying. It's Greece-like from 8 or 10 years ago in terms of debt to GDP. But keep in mind, I mean, Trump needs to cut some places in order to make room for tax cuts, number one, but number two, to build up the military in the way that he has decided needs to be done, which I think is very much justifiable. So we'll see where the budget goes. But your political question, yes, I think there are high stakes on the Obamacare replacement. I think there are high stakes to a lesser extent probably on the budget. But this year is going to be about results. It's not about tweets or executive orders. It's going to be about results. Do people feel like their lives are better? Are their wages going up? Are jobs being created? Is America back in control of its own destiny in a way it feels like it hasn't been for 8 years? That's really what this year is about. And if you look at where the Trump administration is going to be spending political capital, it's on immigration in terms of building the wall and securing the southern border. It's on Obamacare, and it's on tax reform. Those are the three items that they are really going to invest political capital in. We will see where we are at the end of the year in terms of whether they can get those things through Congress and whether those things make Americans writ large feel better about the direction of the country.
He is Matt Mackowiak, GOP strategist and president of the Potomac Strategy Group. Matt, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate your insights.
Always a pleasure. Take care.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.